we would like to offer a topic for discussion and contemplation. So much information has been put out now about our reality being a simulation. This is not only in the alternative history communities and by researchers, but this is also a topic that has been proposed by mainstream scientists and physicists such as Neil deGrasse Tyson and Tom Campbell. While we admire Tom Campbell's research and experience, we must say that we think Tom's experiences are limited to what only exists within the 4% construct and nothing beyond it. Having said that, however, we feel what he has experienced is probably extremely accurate for how this reality operates. We have been noticing, not only in our comment sections, but also in other discussion groups, that people no longer want to participate in this simulation or any simulation of any kind. This way of thinking has us quite stumped and confused. We'd like to encourage those of you who have this desire to offer your perspectives in the comment section of this video for discussion. All of us are certainly welcome and encouraged to have our own opinions and desires for what we would like to experience once we find our way out of this particular mess. But we have come against a concept that we do not understand, and we'd like for those of you who are willing to help us understand this concept with more clarity. To say that this reality is a simulation, a video game, a computer program, or whatever we want to label it, seems to be a point that we can all stand on together as an equal level of understanding. Do we agree? If so, from here we can begin our discussion. If we take the time to read about the experiences of others, or if we have personal first-hand experiences, we can know that there is something waiting for us after our physical death. We know that there are people who have near-death experiences, out-of-body experiences, people with extrasensory perceptions that allow them to see, feel and hear things that are not usual for this third-dimensional reality. The fact that these experiences exist are proven, studied, and these skills are even trained for use in our governments and militaries around the world. The point is, there is more to this existence than what we experience on a day-to-day basis. And that means that we have been somehow manipulated into a state of being in which most of us are very limited as to what we can experience, when we know there is so much more. The design by which we all experience this reality, this life, can be called the rule set or the program for this simulation. We know that we can create our own reality, make our own choices, use our intention and our will to bring about change and effect, not only in our own life, but the lives of others. However, we also know that no matter how much we intend, wish or focus, we cannot grow wings and fly. This is not part of the rule set by which we are designed to navigate this experience. We can only play the game within the confines of the rules or program of the game. This is what we would call a simulation. What we feel is happening here is that we all may have different interpretations of what is a simulation. We are so used to having scientists and educators compare humans and the human experience in computer lingo that we might have adopted the notion or that perspective that a simulation means some kind of artificial construct, like a computer program. While this may be the case for what we experience here and now, and there seems to be some convincing evidence of this, that does not mean that all simulations are operated by the same rule set as ours. In fact, we suspect that our reality here in the 4% universe is completely unique, and what goes on here doesn't happen anywhere else in the rest of the universe. Please allow us to express our own view and understanding of what this simulation means in the context of human beings and the universe. And then we'd love to have our understanding expanded by those of you who differ in your own understanding to ours. When we think about simulations, what comes to mind is usually a model, an imitation, a test, a reproduction of some kind that is meant to be a copy of what already exists. Scientists use simulations all the time to find answers to complicated questions. Doctors use simulations for complicated and delicate surgeries and procedures to make the best plans for treatment before laying one finger on a patient. Pilots use simulations while training to fly aircraft. The military use simulations for training as well. Simulations are not inherently bad things. Simulations help us in many ways to gather information about situations that would be too risky, costly, or impossible to explore otherwise. We have computer simulations, network simulations, training simulations, role-playing simulations, etc. Simulations allow people to have experiences without being present in the actual situation. So, when we say that this reality is a simulation, are we admitting that we are actually participating in a model or an imitation of reality? If we are calling life a simulation, and remember that many well-educated scientists are doing just that, then we need to consider that this is exactly what is being proposed for us to consider. If this is so, then like Tom Campbell suggests, our bodies are the avatars we are using to experience this simulation. The body is our interface into the computer game, so to speak. If we look at the comparison of this reality simulation to something like a military training exercise simulation, we can see that it might be something very similar. Soldiers are made to interact with a controlled environment that simulates a real-life situation or experience, but with a safety net of understanding that these things are not real. They look, feel, smell and sound very real though. This is necessary so that the soldiers learn how to maneuver with more and more skill and less reactivity. The more they can train for a situation or experience, the better prepared they will be if and when they encounter it for real. The point being, simulations can be so excellent that you cannot tell what is real and what is not. Do you think that our simulation may be similar? These soldiers are not playing a video game on the computer. They are actively participating in their simulation. So to compare all simulations to computer programs would not be correct. And we think it may be too confusing if life can only be compared to a video game or a program, when it is actually anything but that. It is, for lack of a better term, life simulations. Everything we know about the universe is a result of our interaction with it while being a part of it. This statement comes from a paper called A Theory of Quantum Observation and the Emergence of the Born Rule by Andreas O. Tell. This is a wonderful paper, not only about the act of observation, but also on how one person's reality can only be defined by what he observes in the universe, and therefore making reality subjective to the experiences of the observer. To be part of the universe is to interact with it. If we are allowed to interact with it, can it be said to be experience? Can it be said that the purpose of simulations is to experience? If the goal of existence is to go beyond simulations, does that mean having no more experiences? What does that mean? We would like to say that the entire universe is a simulation. Many different simulations to gain experience depending on the motivation of the ones creating these playgrounds or simulations. We have seen people mention that they cannot find peace and understanding in the concept of an Orion empire, where there seemed to be war, hierarchy, and just another version of imprisonment. We understand that people do not believe the source of all things is feminine in nature. We know that some people feel that the goal of existence is to become one with the source, or God again. We understand that the return of our being to its source of origin is a common perspective. If this, or something similar, is your interpretation of our existence, we would like to understand how we became separated from the source in the first place and why. In the bigger picture of all things, why was the universe created? If everything is a byproduct and consequence of creation from Lucifer, and nothing is to be trusted that exists in physicality, matter, then why was he created and how? On that same train of thought, if nothing that exists in physicality is to be trusted, then what kind of existence is outside of physicality? What does it look like to you? Who are you? What kind of reality exists where there is no experience through physicality? We cannot talk about simulations without bringing creation into the discussion. As we discussed in earlier articles, creation is the physical expression or manifestation of thought. We have thoughts all the time, and we are creating the reality all around us constantly, depending on which thoughts we focus on the most and make manifest in our daily lives. Here in this physical reality, we are interacting and experiencing our own creations and those of others. And from our perspective, to not have experience is to not exist. Therefore, we are confused when we hear and read others saying that any type of physical experience is part of the simulation or trap of this universe, and what they hope to obtain is something beyond any kind of simulation. In our perspective, we see everything as a simulation, because everything is created and brought to manifestation from thought. Nothing organically exists without first being a thought, and thought itself is an experience. Some have said that we should simply be observers. We interpret this to mean that we should not have any interaction in a physical existence. If the goal is to simply remain observant, observation is also experience, isn't it? Your personal reality forms based on what you observe. Likewise, if the goal is to attain a non-corporal state of being, where not acting with a physical environment of any kind is the height of spiritual progress, what does this mean? We do not understand this perspective, because to reach a state of non-experience to us means non-existence. If non-existence is the ultimate goal for highest growth, then we would essentially be intending ourselves into nothingness. To have experience and therefore existence would mean participating and interacting in someone's playground, whether that playground is heaven, a new earth, or even our own. To say that we can have existence outside our own universe and outside of any kind of creation is something we do not understand. If we must go beyond creation, what would that be when the universe herself is an act of creation, and spirit is also an act of creation? Do we want to exist outside of ourselves? This is the reason why we are confused and why we are hoping to understand this concept with more clarity. What do you want? When you leave this life experience, where do you find yourself wanting to go, and what type of experience do you wish to have for the rest of your eternal existence? We are genuinely curious and wanting to understand more of what everybody's interpretation and perspective is on what we, as beings, can hope to accomplish. There is no right or wrong answer. No one has the full picture on any of this, and we would never say that what you believe or think is wrong, even if it contradicts our own interpretation.